Okay, so a few leaves in, we come to the equivalent of a title page in the manuscript. Now, let me see if I can make that as flat as possible. Dot, does that look right?
That looks
In
good
the
to me. Also, if it helps, there's this snake if that's helpful. But yeah, it looks good to me.
You know, when they rebound manuscripts, and this is a rebound manuscript, often with the new materials and everything else, the manuscript is bound tightly and it closes on you. So this is such a case. Here we see the equivalent of a title page of the manuscript. Now, title pages is often something we associate with printed books. And this title page was completely done by hand, making the title page a manuscript as well. But as you can see, it's been influenced by printed books, including the architectural layout. There's designs on the side, around, two architectural pieces on each side. And on the top, you have two angels. The angels are holding two tablets. That's easy enough to understand. That's a biblical motif. But I think okay, thanks. I think that the main point is actually in a small detail in the angels is that they have six wings. So you count 1, 2, 3, and 4. These two are together. 5 and 6. That's the meaning of the title of the manuscript. Shesh kenafayim means the six wings. It's a reference to the book of Isaiah, where Isaiah recounts that he saw angels with six wings. Two of the wings went above the head of the angel. Two of the wings covered the arms, and the last two of the wings covered the legs. And the okay, I'm going to get into why this author chose that title for this work, but all the what I found so interesting is that this is a rabbinic work, and yet all the evidence points to the author not only writing the manuscript but actually giving us this illustration, illustrating it for us. And I think that this is a fairly striking title page. It's really interesting. So here we go. So this part is the introduction, and as you can see, his script is very, very fine. People have said that they thought that this was a printed book, and I can see why. It's very, very fine script and a symbol of professional penmanship. And on this page over here, the author tells us that the words Shesh kenafayim, again, that's the title, meaning the six wings, are the gematria or the numerical value. I'll explain that in a moment, of the number 800, which is also the numerical value of his name. So in the way the gematria system works is that Aleph, the first letter, means 1, Bet is 2, and the highest number is Taf, which is 400. And to take the numerical value of something and say that that's the same numerical value of other text is called gematria. Now, the author found his name, and as you can see, he bolded the script of his name. That equals 800, as same as the title. Another reason he chose the title. Now, this work is a mystical and Cabalistic work, and correspondence with numbers in the way that I just showed is something that you see all over this work. I could even say that the central focus of this work is the number 6, and the number 6 is repeated and repeated as a theme in this work. Now, after the introduction, he has a short forward, And here we go. This is the beginning. Now, no surprise, there are 6 sections to the book. And each section ends with what you see here, which is called a tapered layout. Now, if you noticed, the tapered layout, because of the 2 sides, has 6 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, he didn't invent the tapered layout. The tapered layout, you see it a lot, even in medieval manuscripts, and centuries old traditions in manuscripts. But I happen to notice that it was used or executed really well here. Probably, and this is just me thinking that the number 6 is again coming into play because of those 6 points. Um, part of part of the significance of creating such a layout is just to a page of text to make it look a little bit more artistic, and also to indicate that you finished a section. And you often see colophons or other end pieces that are in this kind of layout. But this book has so many of them. I thought that was interesting, not just
Joyce
one.
has a question in the chat. Let me over here.
Me.
There's a question in the chat
I'm sorry about that.
from Joyce. She's asking, why is 6 such a significant number for Isaiah? Is it just because of the wings, or was there more to it than that?
I don't think it's Isaiah per se. I think it was just Isaiah mentioning that he saw angels with 6 wings. And this author created a work on the number 6 and used the words from Isaiah as a title. Probably the main reason was because of the number 6, but also because of that gematria with his name that linked his name with the work. Now, there's something I forgot to mention, which is that this is not just any manuscript copy of this work. This is actually the holograph of the work. So when the author wanted to create the book, he created this manuscript for the creation of the book, which you see in the earlier manuscripts before printing. You often see that more. And this is actually a very late example of that. To my knowledge, there wasn't any Hebrew printing in Azerbaijan, especially at this time. And the manuscript tradition remained among many of the Jews in the Caucasus, and this is such an example. Now, I'm going to show you something also interesting here. Even, can I move this closer?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it.
You won't ruin it. It is unable to be busted. Is that good?
Yeah, yeah. Right. Now, here you have an illustration of one of the mystical points being made by the author of this book. These are 2 hands, and it may be a little bit hard to tell because his lines, as you probably already noticed, are very straight. So he used a lot of straight edges to create these lines, and didn't want any kind of haphazard drawing, which is something very nice. And here you see an example of that, but he's actually drawing 2 hands. The hands are in the finger formations of the Cohanim. The Cohanim are the priests, and when they give the blessing of the priests in the synagogue, they put their hands in that formation. That's a centuries old tradition, and the reason he has this picture here is that he's trying to give a kind of mystical reason for that they do that. The symbol is very well known, and very widespread. It's easy to see the symbol, especially on gravestones. When the Cohanim would be buried, they would put that symbol on their graves to show that they were priests, they were from that tribe. But he's trying to give you actually a reason why they do that, and it has to do with the number six again. By grouping the two outer fingers together, the two inner fingers together, and the thumbs, that creates the appearance of number six. If you put your thumbs together, that's one. The two inner fingers together on both sides, two more, and then the two outer ones. And this is actually a unique reason. I haven't seen this reason given anywhere else, especially because in the Kabbalah, a lot of, well, I don't say a lot, but there are a number of reasons given for this formation, but those reasons usually discount the thumbs. And they say that the thumbs are just to connect the two and not to be counted as a number. But this one is showing that the thumbs are actually to be joined as one finger to create the number six. So in in his many mystical reasons behind the number six and the meaning of that in the Jewish religion, this is one of the things he shows actually with an illustration. Oh, I wanted to show that.
I'm gonna show more of the paper. Just sort of page through.
Sure.
There's actually a question too in the chat from Claire asking, is the ink the same as used for a Torah scroll?
That's a good question. Well, as you could see, I didn't mention, but this manuscript is paper. So the paper you don't use paper for Torah scroll, you only use animal skin. And traditionally, I believe they do use ink from berries or gall, and this appears to be that way. It's good ink, so you don't see it bleed through too much of the paper, but you still see the iron portion of it, or iron extract of it through the paper. If you could probably see some of the markings from the opposite side of the folio coming through. And often that is an effect of iron, is that how you say iron gall ink on paper, which very often you see how the paper was not really made to hold that for a length of time.
Sometimes it eats through it and you actually have holes on the paper.
Yeah. And there's no way to fix that. It's not like you can put more paper there or write it again. So you often see that. And like again, on this, you see evidence of there being iron in the ink, but it's not too terrible. I think that I think that you don't really see the effect of it too badly, which is good for us. I continue paging through here. This is so he ends every single reason with the word ba shalom, with peace, because that's a nice way to end it. But that's another thing of his consistency in verse and choice of language, which is really interesting. And I think that this is an example of a type of text that you would not see this kind of creativity through a printed book. You would only see it through his manuscript. And even though 1871 is well into the print era, for a lot of this part of the world too, but yet you still see that the manuscript tradition holds all of his creativity really well in a work like this.
So that, I just noted, I'm actually going to move over so people can hear me.
Okay.
So there's not no, just right here. So I'm noticing that there's not a tapered end there.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why Is there a reason why there's not that taper happening or?
Yeah, good point. I know that there are more over here. Um, I'm sorry, did I say there were six? Here, like for example, this is the final page. And here you see the 6 points again. One, two, and then you have to say this is again that word bas shalom, and this is another two. Okay, so and then here again you see his colophon, and you see his you see the this is called a chronogram, where he takes a verse from the Bible and raises some letters higher to suggest that if you add up those letters, you'll get the year of the writing.
Oh, the year, I thought you were gonna say the number 6.
No, it was 1871. He couldn't, I guess he couldn't wait till 1876. But then he has his name at the bottom, and that's it. And here you have the tapered layout. So let's see. Here you have it again, but not as you could see, not as pronounced as the other ones.
It's enough that you can count to 6.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, can I do it?
I mean, I
1,
think
2,
so.
3. If you consider this to be 4.
Yeah, 4, 5.
So I'll give him some leeway there.
What is the script that he's writing in?
Oh, okay. So this I'll explain the script a little bit. Now, Azerbaijan, in terms of its Jewish population and Jewish learning, shared a lot of its intellectual culture with the Jews of Iran and Persia. Even though it's the former Soviet Union. So in many ways the country is different, but the Jewish population has a lot in common with the Persian Jews, and you see these assortments of Hebrew scripts in a lot of Persian manuscripts. The most plentiful of them are the ketubot, that you see from Iran, and this is like a semi-cursive Hebrew script that's again written by a professional scribe. So you see how he's adhering to the columns, and he created captions. That's, as we would say, it's professional. But he also continues the tradition of the Persian Persian Hebrew semi-cursive script. But Dot correctly noticed there are some bolden words here. Or as we say in like manuscript language, square.
Oh.
So as opposed to this, which is semi-cursive, this is square. He's doing that for a reason, because he's trying to show certain words are gematria to other words, and he's trying to indicate that certain letters have a mystical meaning that he's trying to accent. This here we see that thing again, where in a manuscript you can do this, and it's as easy as good as you are at writing, right?
Mhm.
But in the printed world, this is much more complicated to create all the different fonts. And this is something that, to have this manuscript, you actually see the very broad level of creativity that went into writing this and creating a creative object, not just the text itself. And this I think this is a really nice example of such a thing.
So was this ever printed? Like, are there, or even copied again? Like, are there other copies of this text?
According to, well, we have, in the same way like Digital Scriptorium, you can go search for other manuscripts under the same work. So there's one of these for Hebrew manuscripts called Ketiv, and Ketiv doesn't have another one of this work. There's a 14th century work under this title, which actually there's an LJS manuscript of that, but that work has nothing to do with this work. Yeah, that's so that's I believe a work in mathematics. So this work, this is the only copy, and then not only that, but it's the holograph copy.
So the author's own, in the author's hand, he wrote it himself.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So from the chat, going back to the number 6, there's a comment from Mark. The Birshot Cohanim or the Cohen blessing is often characterized as having 6 parts and ends with shalom.
That's right. That's right. And like I showed you with the with the illustration, that he brings that into this into this work, and tries to show that they're co-joined, and that this work is connected to that as well. And just in the same way that it ends with that word, every section of this work ends with that word as well, in bold, in square.
That's very cool. We still have about 5 minutes, so if you want to keep sort of paging through, and if anybody else has questions or comments, I will keep noting. I was noticing that there were pages where the ink is noticeably like dark, where you're really seeing that the effect of the iron on the page, which makes me think that either some of the paper is different, like it's not all the same paper, some of the paper has a different composition and the ink is affecting it differently, or it's different ink. Like it could have been that somebody made ink several times as they were doing it and some of it had more iron in it, and so that's affecting it more, which is sort of an interesting, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think that they could all be true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, both. Why not both?
Yeah, yeah. And the only thing is that you could see that there's some water damage on the manuscript. This stain here is water. And
is that a stub in the gutter?
it is a stub. It is a stub. And yeah, and yet so when we encounter this in manuscript, the first thought is probably what some of you are thinking, that, oh, is there a page ripped out?
That's what I thought.
So what you do when you see that is you look at the catchword here, and then you match it with the next word. And since those match, then you know it's a stub, and it's not a torn out page.
So there's a leaf maybe somewhere else that's attached to that, like it was just a single leaf that was put in.
That's right. It's a single leaf, and it was anchored into what we call the gutter over here. And you see the end piece because they just didn't shorten that down, which often they do, but in this case they didn't. Since this in the manuscript world, we have collation where we would actually note that there's a stub there. But since this is from 1871, this is far after the period of collating manuscripts. This is already in the end of the 19th century. So my record, I did not collate the manuscript, and yeah.
I might do that just for fun.
Okay.
You don't have to add it to your record.
Right.
It's just like doing collation.
Right. But oh, and look at that. He actually he puts a word of well, we call it an annotation on the stub. So that explains why he never cut it out. It's just extra paper. What these are, yeah.
You can see that a little better.
Yeah. So what these are is these are just corrections. And if you wanted to add a word here after he wrote it, he would put it in the margin. You see how it has that sign, and then you find the sign in the text, and then you say, okay, I understand now. But because I guess and here you see the stub is helpful in adding corrections in line. So instead of having to go to the facing folio, which would make you confused because you'd say, oh, is it over here somewhere? So you'd say it's in the stub. Okay, I'll match it this way. And yeah.
We have about a minute, so if there are any final questions or thoughts. Is the book hand-bound?
Let's look at the binding. I'd say maybe.
I'm sorry. I
Yes.
I just wanted to zoom out. There we go.
I'd say maybe here you see, well, the binding is certainly modern. This binding is not from 1871. And here you see that, wait, can you see that? Here you see that these are called the edges, and this is the original folios, and then you see the modern binding sort of taking over, and yeah, and these it has two raised bands on the spine. Although this is decorational, when we all think of old books, we think of the raised bands on the spine, and that makes them look old. And people like that design, so they probably added this just decorationally. There are no bands. There are no, how would you say it? Like linen bands
Yeah,
under here
underneath.
holding
So-
the manuscript together.
Oh.
This was not done at this time. So this is just a decorational thing. And yeah, it's a full leather binding.
Thank you so much, Louis. Sure. And thank you everybody for coming. And we will see you when we see you.